Greetings, everybody. A lot going on Eretz Yisrael. Scary things going on Eretz Yisrael. And if anyone tried tuning in a half an hour ago and I was not in the studio, it's because I'm really taking care of children I have in Eretz Yisrael, and not to put in the same category. Obviously, children is the most valuable thing, but other interests I have in Eretz Yisrael. It's a horrible time, and that's why we started this series. That this series is Kulo Yerushalayim, that will surely cause us to do tshuva, which is necessary to be mavritz roag zera. But also, this sefer is heavily based on Zohar, which has this gula of aside from giving Yerushalayim in the individual, but it saves from Chevlei Mashiach, and it'll get us out of the Golus Barachamin, like it says in Zohar Parshas Naso. Yesterday, the video cut short because the internet connection went down. So we'll pick up where we left off yesterday before the video goes blank, as I'm sure you've seen. We're going to take it again from Sif Yud Gimel. And it's like Rosh Hashanah Maimer Shetaknu. So now when we brought a Chazal earlier, Schar Talmud Gomel, right? Right. So now that the Chazal that we brought earlier in these tests is that that you know that great is the schar for learning. Why learning is so great, aside from its own merit, but it's Gdola Talmud Shemevi Lidei Maisa, because it brings you to actually do the mitzvahs, and that's what makes learning so valuable. It's not just its own value, but it's the facilitator to do mitzvahs, and therefore, as we've been saying over and over in this sefer, all the limud is to be amanas la'asos. That's what makes learning so super. That's not just its own merit. It also is, causes you to do mitzvahs, and your learning should be to do mitzvahs, and that was his pshat and what limud Torah Lishma is. It's amanas la'asos. So now, he is bothered trying to understand how the Gemara proved it from the pasuk that it brings. The Gemara brought a pasuk that talks about avodas hatstaka, which is obviously avoda, work of tzedakah, means giving tzedakah, physically, and then via maaseh hatstaka shalom. But the ma'aser, then it's an extra clause in the pasuk, and the ma'aser of tzedakah, as opposed to avodas tzedakah, will be shalom, and from there the Gemara learns out gadol ha'maaseh yoser min ha'oseh, that he who makes other people do mitzvahs is even bigger than just doing a mitzvah on your by your lonesome. Making others do mitzvahs even bigger, making someone else do a mitzvah. And so from maaseh tzedakah, because stam you giving tzedakah is alluded to elsewhere in the pasuk via avodas tzedakah, but from this clause via maaseh tzedakah shalom, it didn't just prove the idea of Gadol HaMa'aseh, Yosef and Oseh, but seemingly from this clause in the pasuk, it wants to prove that Gedola Talmud Shemevi Dei Maisa. So now look, let's let him talk. He'll explain the difficulty that needs ironing out. Right? So now, seemingly, all that this we could prove from this clause in the pasuk, seemingly the only thing that we could prove from this clause in the pasuk is gadol ha'maaseh, because avodas tzedakah, which is a single person giving tzedakah, is already said in the pasuk. So therefore, maaseh tzedakah must be maaseh b'lashon me'aseh, causing someone else. Fine. So seemingly that's that's all you could prove. Tzedakah perushula maaseh, because avodas tzedakah mentioned earlier in the pasuk is the guy who just did. Right, did the act of tzedakah. So this must be ma'aseh tzedakah shalom, is talking about making others. But how do you have a raya also from this clause in the pasuk of ma'aseh tzedakah shalom that's also talking about gedola talmud shemevi lidei maisa? But it doesn't mean call yeshu man a raya call. But no, but there is a raya not just for gadol ma'aseh yosem min ha'oseh, but this clause of vaya ma'aseh tzedakah shalom is indeed a raya to the idea that Gedola Talmud Shemevi Lidei Maisa, what makes learning so great. and so worthy of so much stars that it's not just its own merit, but it's maybe they Maisa. Right. So and how so? So that's what he does. He often explains things by bringing in information from the Zohar. The word staka, the Zohar says also means Torah. It also means Torah. Right. This is what it says in the Zohar in Parshas Miketz. Pasuk Rabbi Yossi v'Omar. Rabbi Yossi opened up and said, "Lo ilu oitzos resha." Right, the storehouses of evil, the treasure houses of the evil will not help anybody. Utstaka tatzil mi mavis, and it's dafka tztaka that will save from death. So a Russia could have treasures and treasures, like lots of resources, right? Like the Hamas that has lots and lots of stuff from Iran and from all the anti-Semites around the world, like the EU and the UN, Shemos Rishoyim Yirkamu, Kain Yov Doivech Hashem, right? So all that Otzros Resha won't help them. What saves from death is Staka Tatzil Mimamis, right? It's a Pasuk Mishlei. So the Zohar in Parshas Miketz is breaking down this pasuk from Mishlei. Lo yo'ilu otzros resha, right? It won't help, and all these storage houses of evil. Ilu inun delo mishtadli ba'iraisa va'azlin basar mili da'amal michnash otzrin dechiyuva, right? The otzros resha. You know what it refers to? What are these otzros treasure houses of evil? These are people that are not amel b'Torah. They disregard their learning.
If I turn my phone off, I won't be able to like.
Yeah. Hold on a second, please. Go. It's either in my pants or look in the drawer where I throw everything. Okay. All right. Sorry about that. We're going to have to end at 2:00. First of all, I think taking a summer, more than half an hour is like, we should do this in half an hour increments anyway. But at 2 p.m., for those who are worried about conspiracies, there was the 5G energy bolt that maybe all internet connected things should be shut down at that time for about, till about 3 p.m. So Min HaShamayim, this will be exactly half an hour, and that's probably a very good. Too much is just sometimes overwhelming, especially in a sefer like Reishis Chochma has a lot of information and a lot of power. It could be really. All right, but Kitzer. But anyway, so getting back to how the Zohar unpacks. These are people who are not Omo B'Torah, and we spoke about that a great deal in all the different forums that we've had ever since this crisis in Eretz Yisrael was brought to our attention, and we're able to communicate about it since Motzai Simchas Torah. What it means, lo mishtadli ba'oraisa, but spare me right now, so we should stay on topic. All those who are not Omer B'Torah, but they do run after earthly stuff, earthly pursuits. So they're learning, they're lackadaisical, they're neglectful or lackadaisical about their learning, but they do run after their business and all, and accrue it, and acquiring earthly stuff, mili dalma. The Mikrash Otzrin, and they gather together, resources, storage houses, treasure houses, and it's the chiva, and it's all bad. It's all chiva. It's all that's called resha. Stuff that you don't need, and it's not l'shem shamayim. Yeah, Bishlam, if at least you need it, right? So if you're not mecham shamayim, but because you need it, it's not. You can't call it resha. But it's all this extra stuff, and then that's where your head and heart is, in the extras that you don't need, as opposed to the Torah that we need. Right? So therefore, all that accumulation of resource that's where your interest rate, that's what you ran after. So it's called Eitzrin de Chiyuva. It's treasure houses of evil, of Avera. So Maksiv, so regarding that, it's written elsewhere in another sefer of Shlomo HaMelech in Koheles, Vavara Oshahu be'inyan ra, that wealth will be lost by some bad mishap, by something bad happening. Right? So begin the inun otzos, and it's because it's otzos resha. So because it's otzos resha, vavar oshahu be'inyan ra. Right? So that's an amazing thing. This stuff that you gathered, you know, because that's where your heart was. Your heart and soul was all in inyone olam hazeh that you don't need. It's not the inyone olam hazeh that you mamash need for your survival, because that's a mitzvah if you're not mechamal shemayim. But it is expected. You have to do what you need to stay alive. But the Torah that you really need, you were neglectful, and this you ran after. So now this is called otzos resha. I mean, there's evil in it because it's not kosher money. Even if you didn't rip anybody off, right? It's kosher if you did rip someone off to get it, right? But as the Zohar saying, if you didn't rip anyone off, it was mamish unnecessary wealth that, and you showed interest in that, and you neglected your learning, right? Which makes it even worse. That of learning you didn't care about. This you care about. So it's called otzos resha. So now, when eventually you will lose that money, be'inyan ra. But as Zohar says, it's be'inyan. You lose it be'inyan ra. Something bad's going to happen, and it'll all be lost, right? And he says, begin the inun otzos, because otzos, right? It means when the bad thing happens that caused this money, that you accumulated, which is called otzos resha, because you did it at the, you disregarded your learning, you went after this instead, right? That's right. That's right. So when it eventually, so it's not the shot, it was good money, just because you didn't, you didn't deserve it, right? Because you did it at the expense of your learning, and you showed more interest in it than your learning. Therefore, there'll be a reaction, and Hashem will take it away from you. No, that's not the shot, says the Zohar. It's begin in on otzos resha. The way I understand what the Zohar is being macharish is that it's not retribution. It's not einish. It's like that money is self-destructing. The Avada Oshahu Be'inyan Ra beginning Rosa, this money will be lost because something bad will happen because it's Otzros Resha. So when that bad thing eventually happens that will cause this money to be taken from you, it is really beginning at the money, those resources self-destructed because they had bad in them. All right, so the event that caused them to be lost was really it itself self-destructing. Because it was be'etzem otzos resha, and therefore avara osho be'inyan ra. And so when that mishap will happen, so whatever it is that will cause that money to get lost, what really happened in previous is that money was self-destructing. Even if it may not seem that way to the eyes. Right? That's what the Zohar is saying. All right, okay. But utstaka the tzazah, but so if the otzros that are called reshas because you weren't learning, you were doing that instead of learning, instead of investing your whole mind and heart in learning, you did that instead, and your learning was neglectful and lazy and shallow because you put your head, everything, your interest in pursuing this money. So therefore, by contrast, Tzedakah does say from that, those are those who are omel b'Torah, v'yadi orcha listakola, and they also know the way, the derech of how to look at learning, right? They know, the darkei Torah. They know the darkei Torah, right? It's not just, so it's not superficial learning. You have like a derech in learning. You have from the Torah you learn, the proper ways of how to be noig al pi Torah. So that's a deep learning that you have real das Torah and you know how to apply it. This is derech HaTorah, right? Right. I was just looking up another Zohar that he doesn't spell out, but he references. The Raisa Eitz Chaim, but going on this Zohar in Parshas Mikos, because Torah is Eitz Chaim, Vikret Staka, and the Torah is also called Staka. D'chsiv Utstaka Tielanu, right? Koshru says in Parshas that the Torah says that Hashem considers it righteousness on our part when we keep the Torah. So the term Staka Tielanu is how the Rebbe regards our keeping of Torah bichlal. So you see the term tzedakah goes on Torah, right? So Torah definitely gives life. Torah Tatsu was because Torah's Eitz Chaim. So Zohar say it makes perfect sense that the pasuk is talking about those who are Omel and Torah, right? Right, that because the Torah, does save from death because it gives life. It certainly saves from death. It's Eitz Chaim, and you see, it's legit that Torah, that tzedakah be a synonym for Torah, as per the pasuk Utzedakah Tielanu Ki Nishmor, right? It's talking, that because it calls it tzedakah on our part, our upkeep of Torah. So you see, keeping Torah is called tzedakah. But the Gezor goes on to say, Utzedakah tatzil mimaves dot tzedakah mamish. No, you could indeed learn that the tzedakah tatzil mimaves is also talking about tzedakah in the literal sense, giving charity. Ubetray gavnin iu betray sistren, and it's not a contradiction. It's two different aspects of tzedakah from two different sides, and we're going to explain this. Betraying citron. So it's really it's not the pshat that that these two pshatim, that tzedakah tatzel mimavis is teira amelus patara. I mean, say amelus patara, or tzedakah tatzel mimavis lui, giving tzedakah saves you from death. These two pshatim are not mutually exclusive. It's betray gavnin you. It's two aspects. There are two aspects, two different aspects of tzedakah. But betray citron, actually two different sides, as we're going to explain, because one's bechinas chesed, the one's bechinas din, right? So it's probably legit that tzedakah is a term common to tzedakah as we know it, kipshutai, and for amelus patara. So tzedakah is called Torah, tzedakah is called tzedakah mamash. The kulachad, it's all one. It's not a contradiction. Ad kan l'shono. This is the words of right. These are the words of the Zohar. Right. So now the Reish Chochma is going to further unpack it. So now just looking at at this Zohar, from on a surface level, even without getting too deep into it, which he will do later, right? I do believe he'll go a little bit deeper to this, but just for starters, just looking at the raw words of the Zohar, just from there alone, we could bring a riot to our thesis that Iker Torah is Almanas La'asos. We come Loti Kara Torah Tzedakah B'chinan Nimshach Mela Kiyum HaMaaseh. Right. So if Torah is called tzedakah, obviously, if Torah could be called tzedakah, right? You realize it can't be called tzedakah if it's just going to be learning, but you don't give a damn about anyone else. That type of learning can't be called tzedakah. It's called the type of Torah that's almanas lasos. Since you're learning almanas lasos, that could be called tzedakah because the Torah, whatever you do, will cause you to do good. Right, tzedakah being a form of doing good. So the Torah that's almanas lasos, since it's almanas lasos, it's called tzedakah. Right? It is just otherwise it's unfathomable how Torah and tzedakah could be interchangeable terms. But if you say that Torah you have to be lomed almanas lasos, now you can understand how Torah and tzedakah are interchangeable terms. Vine raspos havi. Right. So now, if so. Right, those are so you can only Torah can only be called tzedakah mitzad, how Torah leads into Maisa. Torah leads you to do good, and tzedakah is to do good, and therefore tzedakah and Torah almanas lasos are synonyms. Vainu rayasa pasuk shehevi utzedakah tielanu kishmor lasos. Matter of fact, look how the Zohar proved it that Torah is called tzedakah. Utzedakah tielanu ki nishmor lasos is how the pasuk goes on. It's Torah. Of course, considers our kiyum of Torah as tzedakah on our part. Ki nishmor lasos. So, Maush, the pasuk that the Zohar proved the idea that Torah is called tzedakah is in the context of ki nishmor lasos. So it's Torah almanas lasos is called tzedakah. Sheishva Torah tzedakah, that this pasuk that compares that uses Torah, calls Torah tzedakah, right, is ki nishmor lasos. The commotion of the kulachad, And now we're going to go even deeper. That so the end of the Zohar says it's kulachad. It's not a contradiction that tzedakah is tzedakah, like to give tzedakah to an ani, right? Right, and it's also the Torah is called tzedakah, right? It's all kulachad. It's all really one. In Pneumius, it's all one. It's just two different manifestations, as we explained. Trey Gavnin, Trey Citrin, two different aspects, two different manifestations. Literally means two different colors, but two different manifestations, and it's two sides. One is more b'chinas chesed, one is more b'chinas adin, as we'll explain. But it's all one and the same aspects of the same thing. Right? Because tzedakah is obviously Eitz Chaim. It's Eitz Chaim, right? Because tzedakah gives life to the ani who needs it. That are there, over there, and when he's referring to Kufin Gimel Beis, that's what I was glancing at before, right? The ani, and we're talking about a person, not. We're talking about a person who, unfortunately, there's no shortage of these people, that are like, they seemingly are be'etzem poor. It's not like, they're in a tight pinch, so you need a quick loan to, There's some people that no matter how much you help them, they just have no mazel. They're always constantly, not matzliach, and by no fault of their own, right? Because that's their nisayon in life. So now, as Ramchal explains in the Das Tfunis, there's the sort of tzaddik v'ralo versus tzaddik v'tovlo. And he actually discussed this on a more simplistic level in the Derech Hashem. Right? Listen, and there's a lot of different nisyonos in the world, right? The Sitra Achra is in all of them, right? Now you got to fight as he writes in Mesilas Yesharim, right? The Ramchal, you got to fight the Yetzor that's in front of you. You got to fight the Yetzor that's behind you. He's from all sides, right? If you're wealthy, he tempts you to do bad stuff with your wealth and not to give enough tzedakah. But the nisyonos that you have as a wealthy man, where the Yetzor is there trying to trip you up, and you got to fight. There's a different battlefield where the Yetzor faces off to you when you're poor. The nisyonos of the poor man are not the nisyonos of the rich man. Right? Everyone's got their own nisyonos, and you have to be a tzaddik. That's to be victorious and to be a tzaddik. Tzaddik also miloshin tzedek and tzedakah, as we're about to explain. That's really the Zohar that he's alluding to in Parshas B'chukosai that he's referencing. You got to be a tzaddik in whatever battlefield you find yourself in. To be a tzaddik is to be victorious over the Yetzer Hara. But the rich man has certain set of nisyonos. He's like fighting the Yetzer Hara by air, right? And the poor man, has a different battleground. It's just like fighting him on the ground, literally on the ground, like half dead, down, right? And that's why everyone has to have a different lifestyle, apropos to the nisyonos that he's meant to face off with, and sometimes certain life situations are mutually exclusive. You can't have, the nisyon of being wealthy and be poor, and you can't have the nisyonos of being poor and be wealthy, and that's why there are rich people and there are poor people, each one with their own nisyon. So now that already he writes in the Derech Hashem. So now the Das Tfunis, really, he cranks it up a level towards the end of the Sefer, and he goes deeper. Some people have to face off with the Ra, so tzaddik v'tovlo, that Hashem will give you shefa, right? Your challenge is to use it the right way, and that all the shefa should just go to the right place. That's tzaddik v'tovlo. The tzaddik v'ralo is that the Rebbe Shem Dafka holds back shefa, and you have to rise up to the situation with bitachon, emuna, bitachon, and being makabel the yisurim ba'ava. And that's how you break the Hester Panim, by trying to not let it take away your faith. And let's call it that you fill the void of that Hester Panim with Emunah and with Bitachon and with being Makabel the Yisurin B'Simcha and being Makabel Ba'ava. So that's how you fill in the void, right? That's how you face off with the evil. It's in a certain way, it's a much bigger Nisan. You're on evil's home court because you're in Hester Panim. You're on evil's mamish home court, and you blow it up from the inside by not letting it get to you, not letting it taint your emuna, not let it taint your bitachon, and you dafka bring shefa, which doesn't necessarily translate into money or whatever you're missing, in the Gashmia sense, but cosmically, the lack of shefa, you bring in a new shefa to illuminate that darkness with your emuna, with your bitachon, with being mekabel besimcha. All right, that's Tzadik Varalo. He's in the Ra, mamish on the home court of the Yetzer Hara, and the home court of the Sitra Achra. He's blowing it up from the inside. It's a much higher avoda, but the neshamas that are cut out for this type of avoda are not cut out for that type of avoda. So the oni is mamish there, and he's poor, he's lacking, he's dovik in the ilana de Moisa, right? He's a dovik in the tree of death. Right, as he goes on to say, they're mamish, they're poor. We're talking people that are bad, so not people that sometimes hit a rough spot and they just got to get past it. Then they have parnasa. We're talking about these people that are, aniyim kol yameim or rov yameim, Rahman al-Islam, and it's sadly we know people like this, right? That it's not for any fault of them. They just don't have the mazel to get out of it. All right, that's it. Because that's their nisayon in life. Their neshama was especially created to face that nisayon. That's what HaKadosh told Reb Elazar ben Pedas. You want me to make you rich? I have to I have to rewire the whole world to make you rich. That means that the chip of the programming of you being your place in reality is to face off with the nisyonis of being poor. Right? If you want to stay you and still not have that nisayon, I have to destroy the whole world, rewire the world, because that's your place in the world. Lefi who you are and what service and point, what you're supposed to contribute to the cosmos, the tikkun you're supposed to make in the cosmos, right? So that case, you're davik bilon mos, your mom is stuck, in the elan of maves, right? You're stuck in the elan of maves, right? Because only choshev kames, right? It's all in the Zohar and Parsha. He's expecting to have in your head all these things in the Zohar and Puchukos, like if you give him base. Your mamish, you're in and you're also in the midah of malchus, which is, I think we alluded to this yesterday. You're in the midah of malchus that needs to be makabel. David Melech Yisrael, Leslie Megarkum Dal. You need everything on loan. And the midah of malchus Ragleh Yordos Maves, right? That's your position in the world. That's your position, your cosmic position. And Stucca literally gives you life, and that's what you're supposed to do. Your nisayon in life is that you have to get your chayim supplemented from someone else, which means also why Stucca is such it's tatsubos cause mida connected mida that you are saving him from death, otherwise he'll starve to death, right? His deprivation may kill him, and so mida connected will be matzel you, but it's more than that. It's mamish to make a cosmic tikkun of putting shefa, the avod of putting shefa where the shefa is lacking. And it's called to build the malchus, right? To build the midah that less migarma klum. And it's a big cosmic tikkun stucca. And that's spoken about in Parshas Bechukos. And then when you understand the cosmic aspect of stucca, you can understand why Torah al minas la'asos, does the same type of cosmic tikkun of being Megal, the or of Eitz HaChaim, and dispelling the darkness of death, right? The Ilana de Mosa. So the Ani is Davik in the Ilana de Mosa, right? Kiripirshu, Parshas, as you per that Zar and Parshas Chukosa, it's can I do inside Kufi Gimel and Beis in the standard Vilna edition. So Kenya Torah Kinut, also Torah is called Stokat Tzedek Ha Hey. What's stucca? Stucca, actually, there's are in a few places, Tzedek Hey. So now the Hey refers to this last midah of Malchus that needs building up. We might say midah that's called Shechina. The Shechina Kutshbrichas Mashpia into Shechina, right? It's a Kli to be Makabo, which the Kli itself is empty. Got to fill it up, right? Is what we so cross reference what we're saying today is what we said yesterday in Reishis part 2, right? So now so Tzedek Hey, right? Tzedek, the midah of Tzedek, Din Tzedek, which is the midah of Malchus, Dina the Malchusa Dina, it's the midas hadin that says, hey, buddy, you don't get until you earn, and you have nothing until you earn it, right? Din tzedek, right? Tzedek hey, right? Tzedek hey, right? That's stuck cuts tzedek hey, right? But the midah of tzedakah per se is the tzaddik, which is the midah of yesod tzaddik, is mashpia into the hay, right? But it's tzedek hay, becomes tzedakah, right? Mikoch the shefa that fills it up. Those who are mishtanto and they know the derech haTorah. Derech haTorah is almanas lasos. So we explained before it as a derech in Torah. So aside from derech learning, but a derech to understand the halacha l'maisa that comes out of it, and he has now a Torah vision, and this Torah vision is how to put the Torah into action. So the Torah that's Eitz HaChaim, when it's almanas lasos, it's mashpia on the world, because you're doing it almanas lasos. You're going to live your life and interact with the world that way. So Torah almanas lasos, the Eitz HaChaim being mashpia chaim into the world, the olam hamaisa. And I think we explained yesterday or 2 days ago already that the Gemara Maisa is in this midah of Malchus. That's the Makabel. That's where the Gemara Maisa happens. That's rock bottom, where that's where the focal point where the work gets done. All right. But you have to be mashpia at that focal point. That focal point has none of its own, but since it's the focal point where everything adds up, that's work gets done. So now you understand that Torah Manas Lasos, it's stuck, right? To be mashpia chayim to the midah of Malchus, to the oni that's davik that the oni is mamash merkava for the midah of Malchus. He's dal. He's like, it needs to be built like David Melch. He even got his life on loan from Adam Rishon, right? He has nothing of his own, right? And how can we sukas David Nofos? The sukas David betzim Nofos needs to always be built up, right? Right? Like the Shechina needs to be built up, and the Sefer Azar does that. So look, getting the Shechina out of the dirt. He's right down in the dirt, right? At rock bottom, got to build it up. And that's what stucco does. It builds up the oni, right? It makes a possibility of putting shefa where shefa is lacking, and that's what Parshas Mechamli gives stucco to be mashpia. That just like I'm giving money to this person who needs it, so also connect that, cosmically, shefa will go to fill up where it's needed. Right, and that's what Torah almanas lasos. You have the Torah. And it's mamash, because kayadua, right? Torah is connected tiferes, which has an extension called Yesod. Besod Ela Tolos Yaakov Yosef. So Torah is tiferes, and Malchus is the oni, right? And so combining Torah shebichsav with Torah sheba'al peh, it's to make that cosmic tikkun. That's to put the tiferes in the Malchus. So Torah, which is tiferes, almanas lasos, is like the midah of tiferes yesod, which is to be mashpia, giving stucco to the ani. So Torah, tiferes, almanas lasos is to put the tiferes into the Malchus, mamish parallel to a person who has shefa, which is beside tiferes, nachlas Yaakov b'ni mitzarim, b'li mitzarim, and through the middleman of Yosef, that's an extension of the tiferes, the yesod. You mashpid into the Malchus, which needs it. So that's mamish the parallel realities. Okay, we hear B'sur Torah, the learning that we did. So first of all, it should just bring Yeshua and Nechamos. The schus of Torah should be mugging on Amisol and Eretzel and Yidden in every place. Right? It says it should cause us, these things should cause us that we should live what we're learning, and we should do tshuva shlema to live by what we're learning. Everything we learn should be almanas la'asos. I've been learning, and also mikoch this in general, and mikoch the fact that it's all built on Zohar. These Yesodis, should see, that ukme shchinta me'afra, and Am Yisrael should rise. His nari me'afar kumi, right? And we should see, mamash be Yeshuas Yisrael, right? And nefkon megalusa barachamin, amen. Keni ratzon mulefes sapir will be in another hour. supposedly now it's recommended to shut down anything that's internet connected. Kol Tuv, Besuros Titus.